Hey, Obsidian Tongue, how's it going?
It's going. I'm here. How are you?
Doing excellent. Just getting things situated. We just got back, so everybody's trying to get squared away and situated. Jackpot went to go grab some food with her mom, and I was like, it's already too late for me to want to eat, so I'll eat after the class. How about
You
you?
can just, yeah, you could just eat during class. Who cares? Oh, I'm good. I'm here. It was a long day.
Uh,
So,
hopefully
you
we can
know,
make it better.
yeah, I'm just, I'm here. Um, I'm just, I don't know how my Spanish is going to come along because I don't feel like I'm learning anything. So, I mean, I'm getting the little courses that I'm taking. I'm understanding them, and I get the concept. It's just without it being in front of me, like I recognize some words if spoken or especially if it's written, but not enough to be able to tell what people are talking about just yet.
Claro, claro, se toma tiempo. I'm saying, of course, it takes some time.
Hmm. Yes.
No te
So,
apures. Don't rush it.
so yeah. So I think right now I'm on lesson 6.
Ooh,
So I
okay.
think when I'm yeah, I think I'm gonna go back. My free because I'm on a free trial and it's ending tomorrow. So I'm gonna go ahead and just subscribe to it and go from there.
Hi guys,
I'm
can you
sub
hear me?
Yes, we can hear
hmm
you. Can you hear us? Let me share my screen.
But yeah, I already have another app called Bluebird. So I kind of bounce between the two.
Can you hear us, Atlani? How's it going, brother? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys now. I'm having some problems with my
Can you see
speakers and with my
can you see my screen? I'm sharing it right now.
yeah,
Yes, okay. Do you see me, my mouse and where it's going?
yeah,
Yes, okay. You're gonna hit this button. I'm not sure if you have that right next to the
yeah.
mic. And then you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
select your speakers to be the ones for your laptop. The laptop is gonna be this one that says real, excuse me, Realtek digital output, or it'll say the name of your laptop on it. And you select it, and it'll change the output to your laptop. Or you should also see your headphones in there. Like mine, these are my headphones.
So let me take off the head. I tried that already. Let me try it again.
Yes.
See if it works. Let me take off the headphones.
Test, test. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
See when I
Tecpatlisli.
have the headphones on the computer,
Yes.
it allows me to hear you guys, but it gives me the option to switch it over to the speaker, but it doesn't work when I do it. And then when I
Is
remove
your
my headphone, it only has the option of the speaker and I have no sound. I think I have to update my computer or something. That's fine. I'll do it next week.
all right, brother. Let me know. I have a key to software that will update all your drives for you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, man. I might need that. When it comes to technology, really, I hardly ever deal with it. I try to stay away from it as much as I can.
A good way and cheap way without having to pay is if you let me share the rest of my screen. Is if you go to start, you go to settings. Mine might look a little bit different. Let me admit the person. And then in settings, you should see the option for Windows Update. From there, you can check for updates here, obviously, but the one where you want to go is here where it says Advanced Options. Under Advanced Options, you have this option of updates. These are all the stuff that's not Microsoft related. So here you can click on it, download and install it. just for future reference.
Coolio. I'll try doing that. I think I did that already. I may have to do it again.
But yes, I made some updates to Temachtiani's formato, and I put them all in one Excel.
Nice.
And they're all printable. So when they print out all in one page.
You know, you really need to share that with the Temachtiani because I think that is one of the things that creates the most headaches for him.
Yes, I gave him the copy already. He said he's gonna look over it.
Nice. Yeah, because he got because of the fact that it's divided into so many different documents. There's always documents missing for everyone. There's two that I still have to print out that I haven't printed out in a while that I misplaced, and I'm having to go back and actually print them out and have them. But if they're like in one format like that, it makes things so much easier.
Oh yes, it does. Most definitely agree. It's one of those that I kind of had to create a video to explain how to do it because there's a way. Let me show you and give you a little bit of Excel experience here. Share my screen. So I'm going to open up the document again. Let me go into one of the ones that's like challenging to print out. Like for example, this one, when you want to see your options on your page breaks, you want to go to this page break view under view. And so it gives you the breaks of how the page is going to look, right? But the trick is in the print setting. When you go to print, you have to go under normal margins or narrow margins. So you see how it got bigger? And the most important one is this one, fit all columns on one page. So when you click that one, because this is what it looks like without scaling, you see? So it still fits, and that's the modification that I made for it. But when you shrink it all into one page, it looks a little better. And then reducing the margins, well, you get it slightly bigger, right? Another good example here is going to be, where is it? This one, correlación en el tabla for, no. Where are you? Correlación was another one that I had to kind of modify and change. And so same thing, you go to print, fit all columns in one page, because scaling, that's what it looks like. So you see that it gets cut off. And then the next page, it starts again. So it kind of pushes everything out of whack and out of order. If you change it to fit all columns in one page, then you'll see all of them fitting in each page how they're supposed to.
Right. That's cool.
But they're all
Once
here.
it's shared, I'll start playing with it. Send it to me if you don't mind, Nemo.
I don't mind at all.
That way I can start messing with it.
Of course. So I've already shared it in the WhatsApp group. So if you're needing it, ahí te lo mando. I'll send it to you directly.
Cool.
Here it comes. There
I mean, that once we start talking about that stuff, it's gonna get so interesting. I think it's one of those things where it's gonna take us, you know, a couple of hours to go and explain the things in detail because it's so complex in so many different ways that I think that we're gonna have to go over it a bunch of times, just like the Temachtian is doing. Because it's really hard to grasp it the first time around.
Oh yeah.
Being able to read the Tonal, you know?
Yes, of course. And it's one of those that it's going to take practice, and it's going to take you constantly doing now what over and over and over again. That way you can get not just the hang of it, but also understand the meaning of the words, because it's a conglomeration of parts of words, and then you just concatenate it all into one giant verbiage, and that's how you give a whole paragraph with just one big word. So it's freaking awesome. I love it.
Hey everybody, I'm here.
I thought
Sorry,
you were gonna speak with your mouth all full.
I'm not gonna speak with my
That would
mouth
be
full. I'm in
cute.
the
Hi,
middle of
everyone.
eating dinner. All right, I showed up. I'm here. But yes, hi everybody.
Oh, here, let me turn on the camera so you can
So you can
see.
see my stuffing of the face.
Oh no, not even. Where's the light? The light is up here.
Oh, your cafe that you didn't even offer me.
I did
Some
not.
good
I'm
coffee,
sorry.
yeah.
Yes,
Staying
I
up,
love
Memo.
it.
You didn't even offer.
I love it. I love the honey with it, and then I also had cinnamon. And oh my gosh! Hey, Pilar, how's it going? Enjoying the vacation? Would you like some?
I mean,
Yeah, it's my last night in Mexico and I'm eating corn.
Hey, love it,
Oh,
love it.
and that's so delicious. Do you have any jericayas, Pilar?
Any what?
Jericayas.
What is
It's
that?
this little like custard,
What you
like
call
a
me?
flan. It's from that area.
No.
Pilar was
I
like,
didn't.
"What you call me?"
No.
All right, so I kind of wanted to get some feedback and input for those that are just joining. I'm not sure if you got to see the video. If yes, give us some input. Have you tried doing the exercises already? And if no, go ahead and get off the mic and let us know what it is that you would like to understand from the previous class. We're going to give you a quick overview of what it was. Cipactli is essentially the warrior crocodile, right? Yaoehecatl. And we learned a lot by observing the crocodile. The crocodile gives us an understanding of being patient, being still, and just observe your environment around you, because you never know when the right opportunity will come for you to either snatch up prey or be able to make a quick getaway. And so, Tekpat, would you like to?
and I mean the can't talk at this moment. Anyways, yeah, I mean with Sikbakli, the thing about it is to learn how to learn in silence, and it's not because nobody wants to hear what you have to say. It's more of when you're alone with your thoughts and your silence, you truly do learn your surroundings, you learn what's around you, you learn who you are essentially. Because one of the biggest takeaways from Sipakli lessons and exercises is when you're in silence, you remove the distractions, and even just judging yourself and speaking words, right, that come out of your mouth are distractions and that take away from the true meaning behind what you're trying to accomplish, which is to learn yourself, learn the other you, which is your ego. Teach it how to adapt, and teach it when it is appropriate to speak and act upon your ego, and when it's time to kind of put it to the side and keep it in check. So those are some of the things that those exercises with Sipakli, with the crocodile, teach you. And um, I mean, it's one of those energies that really resonate with me. I try on my daily to work with the exercises of Sipakli, just because I've seen a lot of progress just sitting in silence, kind of discovering who I am, trying to figure out all the pieces that make up who I am and why I react maybe in certain situations the way I do. So it's been a really big humbling experience, and I hope we can hear from our classmates on if they've done the exercises, what they think about it, what they felt and have learned from the experiences, and if not, please share why, right? What is maybe stopping you from taking that dive of attempting them, right? You can't lose anything from trying it. So that's all I had to add.
You
I
can
think
come off mic
Noinitzin
whenever you
Andrea
like.
wants to raise her hand. Go ahead, Noinitzin.
Biali, everyone. So actually yesterday I finished watching the video. Um, and it was very helpful because by nature I've always been very introspective. So pretty much, that inner battle, I'm very familiar with that inner battle, and I've dealt with it all my life. And what I really liked about the video is that it showed you pretty much showed you how important it is to make peace with that other part of ourselves, which is the ego. Because, Western society teaches us that the ego is a bad thing and that we should, get it in check or whatever the case may be. But in reality, like the video said, like you guys said, um, it's neither good nor bad. It's just a part of us, right? Um, I see the ego as part of our humanity, like our human, as part of our body, part of our avatar, right? And our true self, it's in our spirit. So that's how I see it. And so anyway, yesterday, as far as putting your teachings into practice, I had the opportunity to sit with my ego in silence because there was a little bit of a incident with my mom where I basically invited her, to watch a movie with me and my sister, and my mom didn't want to watch it, and so I got upset because I was like, well, that's an opportunity for us to spend time. And in any case, I got triggered, and so that's when I started to really uh, self-reflect and and I did that when I was in the shower. So I allowed myself to just be in silence. Part of me was really tempted to just turn on the music and shower because usually that's what I do. But I actually, challenged myself and just sitting in that silence and allowing myself to just focus on my thoughts and what I'm feeling instead of trying to like ignore them like I tend to do sometimes. So I pretty much sat down, well not sat down, but I pretty much, you know what I mean. I allowed myself to interact with my ego and just tell my ego, okay, you're getting triggered because it's triggering that that wound that you carry from your childhood, right? I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I pretty much knew where that came from, why I was upset. And I was just telling myself, even though I felt the urge to judge myself for feeling the way that I do and for having certain thoughts, I just told myself, it's okay that you feel this way, um, allow yourself to feel this way, allow yourself to have these thoughts, and then just move forward, move on from it. Don't hold on to it so you don't get, feel resentful. And it was really helpful because, I allowed myself to just be in the moment, be present in the moment with my feelings, with my thoughts. And yeah, it was a pretty teachable moment for me. So that's pretty much how I put it into practice yesterday.
That is excellent to hear. Thank you so much for your sharing. It's good that you're gaining something right from these exercises. And I like how you eloquently shared with us on, you can identify, you have a lot of experience reflecting, and you can tell because you can pinpoint where these triggers occur and why they occur. And so that is really good growth. And I just wanted to, I don't know, from a psychology standpoint, that's like really great to hear because not everybody knows, right, where these things trigger them or why they're triggered. And it actually ties into our lesson today. So I'm excited for you to hear what we have to share today because it goes hand in hand with what you're kind of revealing to us. So
Yeah,
We love
Lazo
it.
Kamati. Yeah, actually, it's funny that you mentioned psychology because I'm a therapist. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
so I
Yeah.
have.
So you and I should chat it up sometime. I
Oh, I
think we'd
would
have a
love
lot of
to.
great conversations. Yes, that's awesome.
Yes, I would love to. Yeah, so that's part of the reason why I'm so knowledgeable in this type of stuff. And like I said, it's always been in my nature to be introspective. So of course, naturally, I'm going to gravitate towards a career that encourages that. So, but yeah, I would love to chat with you sometime. That would be great. And
Heck yeah.
I'm looking
I'll,
forward to today's lesson.
I'll reach out to you. Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. Sounds good.
But yes, Nuknitsin.
Pilar,
Yes. Go ahead. Anybody else have?
do you have words to share with us in regards to the practices? I'm pretty sure you have plenty of spaces out there to.
Yeah, I can share some really nice pictures in a bit of what it's like over here right now. I've had a lot of chances to. I did not see a colibri until today, but I saw a lot of butterflies, a lot of birds. But I was hoping to see one before I left, and we were driving in Tepatitlan, which is like a city. And so it was not where I was expecting to see it, but we were driving and I looked out the window and I seen it. Like, you know how it flies like a certain way? And I was like, oh my God, I saw one before I left. Yay. But it's been great. Let me pull up some pictures so I can show you guys.
That's awesome. That's
Um, go ahead, somebody else go while I do this.
Obsidian Tongue, would you like to share? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Come on.
Oh, and this is Cyrus or Water Girl, whatever, whichever one. But I was practicing the observe in silence and learn. And yeah, a couple of things came up this week, and I was also noticing a trigger. I've kind of noticed this for a while now, but I wasn't able to really pinpoint where exactly it was coming from. But a couple of things happen where like these people from my old church kind of like keep stalking me on the internet, and it's really creepy. So I just kept getting really like frustrated by that. And I noticed that along with a lot of like the anger I felt about like being like not left alone, I also noticed that I get triggered by being misunderstood. That's something that I've found like really bothers me. And the idea that they might be forming perceptions about me that I can't change, or that like they don't understand me truly. And so that was something that like I've been trying to sit with, the idea that um I can't control the way that people view me, and I can't change that necessarily all the time, and trying to learn to accept that. Um, and so that's kind of something I need to explore a lot more, but that's something that I learned about myself this past week. And then I was trying to just, I was trying to just do that in different parts of nature and just observing different parts of nature and then what I could learn from it. Um, And I found it to be really helpful with also being present and more grounding, which I've noticed that I need to be more in my body than in my head. So the practices have been really helpful, I think, for helping me to do that. And yeah, just to be able to be more mindful, I think, of how my body is feeling as well. So I definitely need to practice them a lot more, but that's what I've noticed as of now. But yeah.
Excellent share. Excellent. That's amazing. I love hearing the stories. What?
Nothing. You sound so cute with your
Oh.
mouth off. But yes,
Can I
thank you
share
so
some
much.
beautiful pictures?
Let's do it.
All right. Screen. All right. This is from the roof of my tia's house. Well, it used to be my grandma's house, but my tia's the one that lives here now. And then this is also from that point. Look at the sun, look at where it's at. It's kind of hard to see. But look at this flower. I really like how it blooms. And then I have another picture of the sunset. And then this is some mezcal that we saw behind a restaurant that we visited. And I really like just the view of it all. There's a picture of me here somewhere with my kid. And then look at this nopal. Bro, I didn't know nopales turned into trees at some point, but they do. And then this one, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like a purple tree. And there was a bunch of petals all over the floor, and there was bees. There was bees going towards the petals on the floors, and that's something so weird. I'd never seen that before. Like bees always go for, flowers that are still attached. And then there's another purple tree. And then this is the same view, different sunset. I got to see a lot of sunsets, which is not something I usually get to see. And the sky, there was a lot of wind, so I was able to take pictures of like how the clouds formed and stuff. And look, this is not edited. Look at the sky. Look at how purple it looks. That's from the garden. ¿Todo bien?
Sí.
That's my dad over there cleaning.
La de Omar. Voy a llevar pacha en la pierna.
Está bien.
Esta es la que te gusta, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Ahí sí tiene chance, me ayudas con la pila, si no se te... I love you.
And then here's the sky again. You can see how purple it looks. And there's my kid, my tia, and my dad cleaning the garden. My kid. He's the only kid. He's the only kid. He's the youngest kid out of all of us. So it's been nice. I saw a little bird today. It's a little red bird. I don't know if you can see it in the picture. Tried to record him singing, but I don't think it does it justice. And then we went to a little plant store today, and I got to see all of these. I wish I could take them to the US with me, but I can't. So I just settled for some pictures. I really like how the water sits in this one. I think that's really cool. I guess I never noticed how the water looks when it's sitting on the plant like that. But yeah, I think that's all I have to share. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Noinitzin. Noinitzin, Obsidian Tongue, would you like to share?
I'll go ahead and let others speak of their experiences. I'll just listen.
Son, would you like to share with us? Have you done the exercises for Sipatli?
Buenas noches. How's it going? Saludos.
Buenas noches. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. I haven't been able to answer your question. I haven't been able to because I've been I'm preparing for an exam tomorrow. So I've been like running around like a chicken without a head all day, you know. It's a lot of anxiety because this is like a transition point in my life. Like long story. I mean, you know, it's really long to go into, but it comes through personal tragedy, words to transform my life, you know, and pretty much put me on like on a healing path. You know, I'm still working on healing myself. You know, actually did get out of a hypnotherapy session, and you know, not to make it too long, you know, it's like you know, of course, personal stuff, but I mean, it's just for me, it's a phase of for me to come to what I'm praying is to eventually have a closure to a cycle that's maybe I've experienced for about 8 years. So I haven't had a chance, to be honest with you, to do any of the meditation. But after this exam, which I have tomorrow out of town, like I have more time. I have more time to devote to other things, you know. So I got to do two exams. This is the hardest part. I prepared for it. Like I said, it's taken me 8 years, longer than other people, but hey, let's do our best. You know what I'm saying? Let's give it heart and. Pero yeah, definitely. Muchísimas gracias for having me here. I just thought I'd tune in because like tomorrow, like I said, it's gonna be a very, very. It's been a busy day today, and tomorrow I'm gonna have a pretty busy day most of the day. So I just wanted to tune in for a little bit and hear everybody out. You know what I'm saying? Here to get some insight. And learn something. So I deeply, deeply appreciate you guys for having me. Plazo Kamati.
Good luck to you, sibling. You got this. You don't need luck. You got this. You've been preparing, and it's good to have you in the space. I'm glad you could stop by. But yeah, just know your value, know what you're capable of, and that's all I can
And
say.
believe it.
Yeah, just believe it. So and we look
I
forward
appreciate it.
to hearing your experiences with the Sipakli exercises, maybe on the weekend or next week. So we look forward to hearing about them. Real quick before we get
Okay.
started,
Plazo Kamati.
yeah, of course. Real quick before we get started with our lesson, we're just gonna Nemo's gonna share real quick his experiences with the Sipakli. Go ahead.
Oh, we gotta get started with the class.
I mean, you can still share.
Nope, I'm not sharing.
That's the point. And yes, we are gonna start at the shark. We're gonna start.
All
I
right,
can't English today.
but my experiences have been quite unique. I am working on a lot and working with the self, especially when you're uprooting a lot of these tendencies that you were taught, a lot of these habits that you picked up because of traumatic experiences and things like that. Um, Learning how to stop reacting is the most crucial part, and I did just that yesterday. As a matter of fact, there was somebody following me and in the car. So one of my biggest driving triggers when it comes to my experiences in combat is people crowding me, and so I feel like they're trying to um, pull up and shoot, because that's exactly how they do things in Iraq, especially when they're trying to get a target. And so the individual followed me all the way to the house, needless to say, and they pulled up literally right next to me to the point where I couldn't open my car door. And it was this older white man and older white woman, and I could have said a lot during the interaction, but I stayed quiet and I rolled up my window and I just let it be at that. It's a big step for me because I'm typically the person who will get out of the vehicle. I'll pull the person out of their car by force and then have a conversation with them as I'm, educating them with my fists. And so instead of doing something like that, I did the opposite. So it was a unique experience. I don't normally drive home in the quiet, but I have been doing it and listening to myself a lot, because there's a lot that my inner person likes to say, and just to decipher the BS from true original content that can be beneficial for both of us has been an eye-opening experience. And so the next set of exercises that we will do will further that. And so just be ready. We can get started.
Anybody wants to share anything else before we start?
Sure. If everyone's already gone, I just wanted to give everyone a chance to speak on their experience. I think a lot of the stuff that we talked about last week, as I said before, I had already been putting into practice. I just didn't realize what I was, I didn't realize that it was they were lessons that actually had gravity to them. And so one of the things that I do practice, and I practice it a lot, and it's just now it's just I don't know when it started or how it started. It was just one day I was driving, I don't even know where. It was like almost like a 45-minute drive for me. And I noticed by the time I got there, I was aware enough of the drive, like, I while I was driving, I was conscious enough of, the traffic laws and my speed and my surroundings. But by the time I got to my destination, I really didn't have a recollection of the trip itself. It was almost like I started off home and I ended up there, but during the ride, I was very aware of everything. But by the time I got there, I was like, there's no way I'm already here. And I had noticed that I didn't even bother, for whatever reason, I had not bothered to even turn my radio on, nothing. I guess I had missed notifications on my phone. I didn't pay attention to anything because my phone automatically syncs up to my car. And I don't really sit there and talk with myself. That other part of me and the conscious me, we just sit there in silence together. I have a friend that I'm like that with. We can be in the same space and we can feel each other and like we know each other's presence, but we don't necessarily have to fill the space up with meaningless talk. When we're together, we say things when we actually have something to say. And it's not an uncomfortable silence. It's just like a companion, like it's just there. And it's there if you want something to converse with. And that is how I've had to start looking at it, as when I'm by myself, I do sit in silence a lot, a lot. When I come home, a lot of the time, I don't even have my TV on, or especially when I had been sick for almost 3 months. I spend a lot of the time just in silence, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the silence. So yeah, I practice that a lot already. And I don't practice is always good, but yeah, I just the being present in the here and now. I'm learning to be better about that, but I'm working on my patience. That's about it. Yeah.
Plaza Kamati, thank you so much. I think something really important that before we get into this next lesson, right, is each one of us should give ourselves that hug, right? Hug ourselves, give us a pat on the shoulder. We are unlearning a lot. We are making strides, right, in the right direction. So I just wanted to take the moment to just say, be proud of yourself, right? To each one of you that is making those efforts every single day to be a better version of yourself, right? It's not easy work, right? This journey is not anything simple. It's not for the faint of heart, like the saying goes, right? So yeah, give yourself that what is it, that acknowledgement of the work that you're doing. I think you guys are gonna like the lesson today. It's it's a really good one.
Great. So let's go ahead and kick it off if you guys don't mind. That way we can get into it and try and learn as much as we can from the next tonal. So one of the things that I wanted to quickly touch on is basically what we're learning about. We're learning about multiple different things and subjects within the culture. Uh, what we're learning right now is basically just one of the many things that we will be learning. Uh, we're learning all of the different energies and exercises associated with them that can help us gain some sort of balance in life. This is basically how the elders viewed these energies and a lot of and they took advantage of them and try to incorporate all of these exercises that we're talking about into their daily life. So it isn't just, they were doing these exercises for 1 week and then moving on to the next one, but it's really trying to incorporate these exercises into your day-to-day life as much as you can. It's basically a way of life. And in that way of life, you will find a lot of different positive things that are going to be coming out of. Uh, Other things that we will be learning about is how to read the Temachtilistli, the codices. We'll start with the Borgia codice. Um, we are learning how to read it. I've been learning from our Temachtiani a little for about a year. And and I think that we're also going to be touching on that. So there's going to be multiple different things that we're going to be touching on as part of these classes. And hopefully we can figure out a way to do another class in a different day or something like that. We'll go ahead and look into that later on as we go on. But moving on to this class, what we're going to be talking about today is the tonal Ehekatl, which is basically the wind. What is the wind? Is basically one of the four most important elements that we have, or one of the four elements that we have. Without it, we wouldn't have life. It's needed for, it's the first thing that we do when we come into the world. We take a grasp of air, uh, of wind, which basically starts giving us life. Uh, we are basically the four elements. We are water, we are wind, we are fire, and we are earth. So Ehekatl serves as multiple different analogies for multiple different things in the culture. It teaches us, it's a great teacher. It teaches us a lot of different things. It basically teaches us how to move, how to basically be extremely high, how to be extremely low, how to move in different ways, how to essentially live everywhere, be basically part of as much as we can be. So we're going to be talking a lot about Ehekatl today. I'll go ahead and pass the mic to somebody else. Go ahead.
Um, are we? I'm gonna go ahead and go next. Unless somebody wants to go first. Um, so when we talk about Ekat, being wind, being the first breath, I like to see the connection with Sipakli as far as like, life is not linear. Life is a circle. We are in a certain point of the circle. And Sipakli, the crocodile is not a starting point. It's just a point on the circle. And when the Ekat is just the next point in the circle. It's the first breath that we breathe, and it's the last breath that we breathe before we die. And then we go back to Sipakli, to creation, because death is not the end. It's just the new life for something else, because we decompose and whatever. But it's this like point of reference where you now have, you know, just the one sign on the point of the circle, like you don't know where you're at, you're just somewhere on the circle. But when you get to wind, you get to word, you get to breath, you see, you know, how the circle moves and where it's going and where you're going. Because eventually we all take our last breath. I don't know if somebody wants to help me out and read the slides, or if it's okay with you guys for me to just read them out loud. These are excerpts from some documents that were shared to us that were originally in Spanish, and I just translated them to English for the presentation.
Okay. So yeah, I guess we can all kind of do like a group effort, and you know, it's a lot of good material.
So let's do it like they do in church, everybody at the same time. 1, 2, 3. And I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, if you want, I can jump in, and then I'll do a snippet, and then you can jump in. But yeah, so Ehekatl is the wind, right? It's also air, and like people have put it, it's that first thing that you do, right? When you come into this world, what do? They make you get that first gasp of air to go into your lungs, right? Then you start crying, and you know, and that's where it all starts. And then at the end of your life, that is the last thing that you will feel, right? And so the orientation for Ehekatl is Miklampa, which for us, that is the north direction. The color for it is white, and the regent is Ehekatl. And so, so it's okay. In iconography, it is represented as the head of the deity Ehekatl, which has a prominent beak, perhaps symbolizing the action of blowing, giving breath, since the wind sign represents the breath that gives life, that which is breathed at the moment of birth. It is a time when special attention must be paid to the respiratory system, and it has been described as conducive to respiratory discipline, which various spiritual masters mention as a basis of good health and even as a means of access to higher realities. Ehekatl also means the word, so in the day Ehekatl, we must pay special attention to our words, which must be harmonious. The word for the ancients was extremely sacred, and it has even been spoken of as the 3 flowers of speech in traditional context, saying that flowery speech, the elevated word, must be truthful, respectful, and opportune. That is to say, one must avoid lying, offending, and also saying things at inappropriate times. The meaning of the sign as atmosphere indicates the need to be attentive to our immediate environment, seeking balance. This immediate environment can include any kind of space, from the place you share with your family to the place where you work. It's time to ask, how is my environment? What can I do to maintain or restore the harmony of it? The wind is also that which cannot be grasped with the hands, but can nevertheless be perceived. So it is a metaphor for the spiritual. So it has many meanings. It is one of those vital necessities of life, right? But it does represent multiple facets. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic so someone else can complete the slide. But yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
very, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for reading it, Tekpat. I'll finish reading the slide. Of the supreme deity, it was said that one of his names was Yaoehecatl, night wind, alluding to the fact that he is invisible and impalpable. Ehekatl also speaks to us of freedom, of going where the heart commands without obstacles of any kind. Free as the wind, says the popular phrase. You have to be careful not to become superficial and fickle, which is a risk that can be taken when exercising this aspect of the sign. It is said that those born in the wind will have a way with speech, will be great communicators, or will have some quality related to the voice, such as singing. They are people who go from here to there freely without attachments of any kind. They can be ever changing, calm as a breeze or tempestuous as a storm. But they are also adaptable and flexible. Lovers of intellectuality, they must take care, as has been said, not to fall into fickleness and superficiality. We have another excerpt from a different book or a document that was shared with us about Ehekatl. And this one reads, Ehekatl, the wind is the breath of life. It spreads sound, it is a sour, and communication. When we are born and take our first breath, we are impregnated with the Ehekatl, passions, influenced by the energies that surround us in that moment. Without the wind, we would not be able to hear sounds of nature, instruments, or words that other people share with us. By working in harmony, we can communicate with others. It is not only saying words, it is saying things with content, with meaning, which leads us to the reason why the wind is called a sower. It gives the person the ability to have a flowery word, that its content is a seed that is going to be sown in the heart of hearts of those who listen to it. It adds value to that information because of the way they share it, that the person treasures it and also works it with a harmonious sense to achieve their own objectives, taking attentively the words heard that have moved us, not to blindly believe in them, but to verify by living them and generating their own experiences that at the same time, in due time, they will be able to share with their own points of view. Wow, that was long. But yeah, that's those are excerpts from a document that we have access to that's in Spanish. If anybody wants the original document in Spanish, just let us know and we can send it to you in the chat. Do you guys want to go next? Thank you.
No need to Nemo.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix some stuff on the back end. I'll pass the mic over to.
Oh, hold on. I was gonna say, so just by those, right, those two slides that we read, I mean, there's a lot of information, right, to decipher, to analyze in that document. I think one of the things that stood out to me from that segment is words, right? So I've always, well, actually, I didn't always. I was taught a few years ago, maybe a few months ago, the power of our words, right? Not to just speak and not know what you're saying, right? I now hold a lot of seriousness and high regard with the words that I choose to say because we are energy, right? And so by using the words we do, by relaying messages the way that we do, we can either be good medicine or we can be bad medicine, right? We can either construct and build or we can completely destroy and annihilate, right? Depending on the choice of words. And so I think that's something that we must, take into consideration is be mindful, right, of the words that we choose to use. I know sometimes emotions might get a little heightened and or we might get perturbed or whatever the situation is, but at all times, right, we must still be careful because our actions or our words are just as powerful as our actions, right? The words that you choose to use, it will resonate and it will it will do something, right, into the universe. It will cause change or action. And we have been informed to believe, right, that everything's cyclical, so it will eventually come back to you, right? So it is important to be mindful of how we conduct ourselves, and especially when we are being tested to our limits, when we are essentially reaching our point of breaking, right? We must kind of change the narrative and change the notion of, instead of doing it this way, like I've done all this time, maybe, the lesson is telling me speak differently, do it differently, right? There has to be a lesson that it's trying to relate to you, right? So Just something that I wanted to kind of bring up about that section of the power behind our words and just being more mindful of it.
Yes, exactly. And so I think in Zipactli, we also took the time to um, observe ourselves in the mirror, right? Looking at the reflection to make sure that we look at ourselves without judgment. And the reason behind that is because it allows you to actually see you for yourself. And as you stare into your own eyes, you get to see the quote unquote other you. There's been a couple of interesting stories that have been shared with us about some of the things that come up from practicing this exercise. And so I do advise that we take the time to first and foremost come into this with a perspective that is open. And the reason for that is because we need to move away from that Eurocentric ideal so that you can actually make progress in the exercise that we're trying to achieve. Otherwise, it's going to be very challenging. And the reason for that is because of that judgment that you hold. And so the words alone will carry a lot of weight. And that weight, we are beings of manifestation, essentially. So if you talk bad and negative about yourself, about the way you look, what do you think the end result when you try and become successful in something is going to be? It's not going to be positive because you just manifested a lot of negativity around you. So those words are truly the equivalent of magic in the Eurocentric perspective. And so I'm not sure if anybody else wanted to add anything, but this this lesson that Temachtiani talked to us about is really critical. Why? Because you're gonna end up asking yourself, who are you and what is your purpose?
So let me touch on that a little bit, if you guys don't mind. So when it comes to Yekat and words, that goes hand in hand. Wind is basically, we use wind for noise, right? So that's basically what words are, noise. And one of the things the words do is it can basically build amazing things. If you compliment people, if you treat people in a nice way, in a beautiful way, if you tell them how nice the dress is or how nice the shirt is, in a respectful way, as a compliment, uh, you're going to change the life or the moment for this particular person in that particular point of their life, right? That's nothing but perfume. That's basically what is called the flourish word. That's what Yaoehecatl allows. He allows for our voice to be used as something that can create beauty, right? We are creators. And when we give somebody a compliment, we are creating that beauty or that feeling that this person is going to have for that moment. On the other hand, if we come up to this person and start telling them, hey, you look ridiculous. Hey, that dress is hideous. Anything negative, that person will also have a reaction, right? And that reaction is essentially going to be the opposite of a compliment. All of this is energy, right? If a person is feeling loved, okay, love is an energy, just like despair is. So if a person is not feeling well because of what we said, with our energy, with our wind, using Yaoehecatl, is basically one of those extremely profound teachings that it can give us, that we have the power to be able to create that beauty, those poems that can make a person cry and say them out loud with our wind, with our breath. But at the same time, we can also create extremely negative sentences that, when said, can be construed as extremely evil or extremely bad, if you want to use whichever concept you want to that effect, right? So that's, I agree with Nitsim Tekpat, that is basically one of the big teachings that we have to learn from Yaoehecatl. Go ahead. Tlazocamatinic. Anyone?
I'll go. When it, so yeah, regards um to Quetzalcoatl and to Ehekatl, I think that it's very powerful energy to begin with. And I do, today I definitely felt it with all the anxiety, all that adrenaline pumping through my veins, And I learned this technique. I didn't have it personally taught to me, but I read it, basing itself off the Nawa, the Anawak or Nawa traditions, talking about it's called Taumia, the way that the author describes it, Taumia being a breath work. For example, you count to 13 in your head when you're receiving the energy from Tonatiuh, from Father Son. And so you count 1, 2, 3, and then you take a breath in, you get that oxygen, and then on the count of 8, you release the breath, and then you do that for 13 times. And basically you're in contact with the elements. Me personally, I like to ground when I'm doing these things, but I get the energy from Tonatiuh, and you do that about 4 times. You could do it longer to 8, but so they're like, but I think that 4, to be honest with you, it's enough. But anyway, in regards to that connection, I do find myself sometimes where reacting off emotions at times, or frustration, and I'm trying to be careful about like what I say. I At times I'm very passionate about what I have to say, and it's not like, I feel like at times people take it the wrong way, you know what I'm saying? But I'm really not trying to come off disrespectful or arrogant. It's just sometimes I have to say certain things, and I'm trying to learn how to say it without being disrespectful or making people feel like they're being judged, because I'm nobody to judge. It's kind of like a self-reflection of myself, and not always about myself, but it's a self-reflection. It comes to me at times where if I say something or whatever, it's not always like, it's not really 100,000% because I'm not the person to sit there and putting other people on blast, you know. But it is a reflection of some of the stuff that I'm coming into realization, that makes sense. But anyway, I just really resonate too with Quetzalcoatl and Ehekatl, those are some of the two elements, and once I did those breath work and, like earlier, took a couple minutes to ground and do that breath work, I started feeling better, because I had like really bad anxiety. My stomach was all messed up. and I was like kind of like getting shaky. I was like, oh man, like fear was kind of getting to me because Like I said, this was big transition in my life. So, but you know, it definitely helped me, you know, doing the breath work. So I don't know if, you know, what I'm saying is like, hopefully it resonates, but you know, I don't, you know, if I'm getting off the subject, I don't mean to do that. I just wanted to share that, you know. So thank you. Tlasokamati, Temachtiani, and you know, just wanted to share that.
Tlasokamati no Initsin. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, one of the things that we're going to be sharing today in class is going to be breathing exercises. Is one of the exercises that goes hand in hand with Yaoehecatl. So all of these different exercises that we've seen throughout the world are things that were practiced also by our elders. So thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Sorry, I was doing bedtime. So, yeah, I guess just to add, to the slide with the ego, right? I like this saying. It's a very enlightening saying in Nahuatl, right? It's a very eloquent way of describing that we as humans have the power within us to make these changes, right? But first, you have to be the teacher for yourself. You have to be that guide for yourself. Because if you, I mean, we've all experienced it. If you let your mind just have an ounce of freedom to run wild, it will go and, you know, create chaos and completely get you out of sync or out of harmony, right? So I guess something that really just syncs with me when I hear this saying of, you know, guide your ego, right? Don't let him or her do the opposite to you, right? Which is to drag you along and dictate what it is that you need to do. We all have the power within us, right? To educate it, right? Essentially, what we have to do is educate our ego, our other us that we don't really know maybe too well, or maybe we do know it a little too well, but you're teaching it when it's appropriate to act, when it's appropriate just to be silent and observe and take in the information. But you're in control. You're always in control. But I think with the society that we've grown up in, all the bad habits and teachings that we have picked up along the way, being born into this society, it has taught us the opposite, right? To disconnect yourself from your ego, to not pay attention to it, to not figure out who that side of you is, right? Because it's deemed bad or the enemy. And so I think you'll start to find out once you do these exercises, once you put more of these things into practice, you're going to see that it's not a bad guy at all, right? It's just misunderstood because it's from lack of attention or lack of understanding, because you never really took the time maybe to talk to yourself or to, you know, reflect on why I choose to do the things I do. And so that's what we're really going to dive into with this energy, with this tonal, is sit with it, learn from it, because you do a lot of things and behaviors for a reason, right? It's either things that you picked up along the way that you imitated or took from other people, or maybe it's really who you are, right? And it's okay to to sit in that silence, not to fear, you know, sitting there and getting to know yourself better. I think a lot of us have that, those feelings of uncomfortable, sitting there in silence because we're afraid of what our mind can do to us. But I think once you see that you're in more control than you think you do, you'll be fine, right? You actually will start to probably enjoy some of these exercises a little bit more. That's all I really had to add for now.
Do
I'll
we
go
want to
ahead and
move
read it.
on to the next
Oh.
slide there?
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really read it out loud. Would you like to read it, Atlani? In the so we know what it sounds like.
Moya Tonal, Tillecanas, Tewa, Ipanpan, Tiweyishkot, Namitskaki, Amo Tikatix, Tikakis, Tewatsin. Your ego, enemy, you will guide him because you are powerful. He will listen to you. You will not listen to him. Um, we will dive into this more because this is extremely profound, and we're gonna be talking about this for quite a few classes. This is also gonna help a lot in helping us basically disregard or really not care about what people think about us. Uh, we'll start diving into those topics uh, and start recognizing that the ego is driving a lot of these things. That usually our mind, our ego, is basically uh, sabotaging us in a lot of different ways, whether it is, by making us feel unsure about things, making us like we are not in control, making us feel insecure about multiple different issues or aspects of life. So we'll be digging into this a little more. Nitsi Nemo, you wanna take over this? I'll go ahead and do it. So Shimokaki, what does that translate to? Hear yourself. These are words that our ancestors used all the time in ways to basically be able to achieve the balance. Um, being able to stay resilient in making sure that they were in control of themselves, their mind, their ego, their guardian angel, whatever you may want to call it, is basically that voice that is talking to us all the time, right? So you want to hear it, hear yourself. You want to do that, right? Shimo Manowe, defend yourself. You always want to be defending yourself, especially from yourself too, right? Your mind can say some really mean things. So you want to make sure that you quiet those thoughts. Those are, I mean, you're taking control of yourself. You're not allowing any exterior or interior force basically control what your thoughts are. You got to take full control of them as much as you can anyway. Um, Shimo Yekita, look, observe at yourself, look at yourself, observe at yourself. Basically, this is an exercise that I try to do a lot because I love the feeling that I get after doing it, which is basically the mirror exercise, right? Um, is being able to connect with yourself, with your higher self, in a more visual way to me, right? In a more personal way. Uh, may not be the same thing for everybody. A lot of these things that we're talking about are individual. So some things might resonate way more than others would, uh, depending on the person. So we just need to be aware of that, I think. Um, Shimone Nemi, direct yourself. You you got to be able to carry yourself on every facet and aspect of life, right? You got to direct yourself as far as what you're gonna eat, as far as your health, as far as your behavior. So basically, you're taking control over your life, and that is basically one of the big things that we're gonna be doing with a lot of these exercises. The end goal is that these exercises are gonna empower ourselves, right? We are going to become the person that we are meant to be, essentially just by doing these simple exercises that allow for us to be aware of our surroundings, of ourselves, and be able to direct ourselves in a way that we're going to be able to feel good about, right? We don't want to go around behaving in a way that is not that good. We got to be as good as we want other people to be, and as good as we want to treat other people as good as we want to be treated. uh Shimoyek Machti. That word is really important because it's basically to teach yourself, learn and teach yourself. Nobody else is going to be teaching us. We're basically going to be presenting a lot of information and a lot of different books and a lot of different material. But at the end of the day, we got to teach it ourselves. Nobody else is going to teach it to anyone else. Uh, when I first started learning with the Temachtilli, I recall how somebody offered him like a lot of money. Somebody from New York offered him a lot of money to just give him the secrets, right? Uh, the secrets are basically in all of these trainings, all of these different exercises that are done. That is essentially the secret, and it cannot be bad. Money does makes no difference whatsoever when it comes to this type of knowledge, because it's something that the exercises teach you in the process of doing them. So the only way that you're going to find out whether this stuff is real or not is by basically, uh, teaching yourself and learning yourself from it as much as you can and applying it. You can learn from it, but if you don't apply it, then you just gain knowledge. You didn't really gain the wisdom behind it. So that's what I would say about this. Anything you'd like to add, Noinitsin Pilar or Noinitsin Nem or TechPad, or anyone
Yes,
else for that matter, please?
I'll go next. So when I look at this slide and the words that are in it, Shimokaki, Shimomanoi, Shimoyekita, Shimonenemi, Juan Shimoyek Machti. I'm trying to learn now what, right? I'm trying to learn and apply it. And the best way for me to learn is to like real life use it. And so sometimes like I tell myself these words or I think of it. I think, okay, I need to direct myself. What was that word that was like direct yourself? And so I just repeat it inside of my head, Shimonenemi, Shimonenemi. And it's how I have been able to better apply it. And I remember something that the Temachini said as far as this phrase of words, that the reason that we cannot hear ourselves is because we cannot sit in the silence. And so the more comfortable that we are sitting in the silence and observing um, nuestro entorno, our insides, our internal environment, we can better hear ourselves. It's how I have been able to better communicate with my ego. It's how I have been able to better foster the relationship between us so that it's not so much my enemy and I'm fighting with you and I need to like um I have to be in control. So give it to me. No, it's more of like I'm talking to you because I care about you and we are here for the same reason. We are here, we want the same things. I hear you. I hear what you want to say. I hear what you want to do. And this is why we don't do that, because we need to think about things, because we need to think about what we're going to say. We need to think about how we're going to act, because it's not just us living in this um outside space, outside of my body. Like other people, they matter. And we have to control how we interact with them. We want to be good influences. We want to give the flowery word, right, that we spoke of earlier. We don't want to offend anyone. We want to talk at the right time, and we want to, I forgot what the third one was, but it's being conscious and using our words, and our words matter. And so that's how I have better used, this phrase of words in my actual life, right? Like, this is my experience. And yeah, it's been a lot easier for me when I get triggered. I recognize it. I tell my ego, hey, we feel this way because of this. Chimonenemi, we need to direct ourselves differently, because if we just continue going down this trigger, we're going to get hurt. We're going to hurt other people, and then it's just going to be bad. Like, we don't want to be that bad experience for anybody. We want to be a good experience. And yeah, that's all I have to share. Tlazokamati.
Which leads us into the second exercise, right? Which is practice silence. Why? Well, you've seen it in front of you. First, shimokaki. Hear yourself. Why? Why do I have to hear myself? Because you neglected yourself for such a long time. 2, shimomanoi. Defend yourself. Why? Again, you've never defended yourself. You're always apologizing for something you did wrong, or you're never giving yourself the opportunities. You always let others take it. So when is your time to do such? When is your time to protect yourself when it has to be done? Most of you cannot answer. Why? Because you have not given it that space. Shimoyekita. Observe yourself. Look at yourself. And we're not saying observe yourself and judge. No, we are saying observe and look at yourself in the prettiest or most flowery method that you can possibly take, because you are trying to build something up that for years has been broken, tattered, shattered, whatever word you want to use to describe what your past was. We're trying to build that up, and you can't build something up if you don't have a vision of what it's supposed to look like. Shimonechnemi, direct yourself. Why? Again, you've never done it. So have you taken a situation where a lot of people are trying to make a decision and nobody's making a decision and nobody can lead or direct? Most of the time, it's within ourselves. What do you want to eat? Whatever you want. What do you want to watch? Whatever you want. We never have a solid answer. We've never taken direction. You know what? Today I don't want to read. Watch a movie. I want to read. You know what? Today I don't want to eat out. I want to make dinner. So learn how to take these words and actually apply them, right? The application. This is a lifestyle change that we are essentially doing. And in doing all of these and applying these things and establishing that lifestyle change, you are then going to move into Shimoyekmachti, which is learn, teach yourself. Okay. These are essential words in this exercise in practicing silence. Why? Because in that silence, you get to hear the other you, the you that is internal. You may not be able to see it, but it definitely speaks to you. Maskiamo tikita minotsa, right? Although you may not see them, you definitely hear them because they do speak. It'll be that first from the moment you are born, and it'll be that last from the moment you are no longer breathing, right? Maskiamo tikesimati minotsa. Although you may not understand it, it speaks to you. Yegua minettia Maski amotik pakmati. It gives you life, even though you do not know it. Mitzelia kwak titlakati, one mitznawatia kwak timiki. It receives you when you are born, and it is the last thing that you breathe when you leave this earth. So this is essentially what you are going to be transpiring. You're going to learn that one of the big things and characteristics as a human being is the fact that you are an existence of dual nature. In this capitalistic system, you are only present in the physical. So yes, you can say I live in the here and now, but you don't exist in that ethereal realm where your quote unquote ego lives. And so in order for us to be able to even get close to having control of our dreams in Mictlampa, you must learn who you are and where you sit in this ethereal realm. And you can't do that without learning, listening to yourself, defending yourself, observing yourself, examining yourself, learning, and teaching yourself. So these all are incorporated in essence because your other you is there. You hear the voice in your head, and it has not left you or abandoned you. In moments when you don't know what to do, you hear that voice in your head, and you're like, you know what? I have no other option, so I'll do this. Why? Because it's always there when you're not expecting it. It loves you like no other, but you don't know this. You will learn this in these self-reflections that we're supposed to be establishing.
I'm supposed to follow that beautiful, beautiful message. Yeah, I mean, you took all the words. There's not really much to add. You did a really good job. You already said that one, but I mean,
Not the last one.
Nochipa mitztlazotla maski amo tikmati. It always loves you, although you don't know it. And I think, I mean, that statement alone, like Nemo has already stated, right? It's always been with us in the toughest of times, in the most devastating, where we have felt alone. We must realize and acknowledge and come to realize that we're never alone, right? There is still that side of us that has always been our cheerleader, been our shoulder to cry on, just been the, what is it, that happy self when things go right, that cheerleader, the pep talker. What are you pointing at? Well, I mean, if you want to say it, you're over here. You're over here pointing.
I'm just showing you so that you can incorporate it into your. Right.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, the love is mutual, right? It comes without any ties. It loves you regardless. It it loves you in your good times and your bad. As you've done plenty, you've lived, you've had experiences, and it's still there. And so it's time to just learn to, through analysis and self-reflection, right? You're going to come to figure out who that side of you is and balance yourself. Not let it run so wild anymore to the point where you're not truly living, you're not being in the present because one side of you is guilt tripping you or making you feel bad for choosing whatever you're trying to choose, right? And so once you harmonize, once you find that nice sweet spot of balance, you're going to see changes within you, right? You're going to see that you don't act or behave in the same fashion, and that's what we're all striving for, right? Growth, moving away from some of these habits that we don't like very much, right? Instead of being reactive, instead of doing things out of emotion, why don't we methodically think things through, right? And figure out the best approach to a situation. We can go further through words and through application than we can with violence and just complete destruction of any situation. That's all I really had to add about that slide.
And in understanding yourself, it's you don't, what is it? It says you don't know how to understand because you don't know how to be quiet.
Well, I mean, the biggest lessons are in silence, right? And I think we've been saying that over and over is there's so many teachings behind just being silent, right? You don't have noises and distractions to keep your mind away from what the true essence and point of what you're trying to achieve. And so that's why the observe in silence without judgment and learn is so important, is because that's where you're going to gain the information. That's where you're going to gain that wisdom that only can be done through application on these exercises and incorporating into who you are and your daily, right? Your daily routine. So, Noknitsin, anybody else want to add? If there's anybody that has questions or needs clarification of the stuff we've covered so far, please feel free to unmute yourself, ask away. But I think clarifications are needed before moving on to like some of the other Ehekatl topics and conversations.
Brother Atlani, would you like to talk something about this slide? If not, I do have something that I want to share.
Go ahead and share it. I'll go ahead and we're going to touch on this same issue later on. So I'll go ahead and just try and make up the same point or similar later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Atlani. So I did want to share my personal experience just because that's how I better connect to things. When I think about the phrases on this slide and what it communicates to me as far as like not only just who the wind is, but also who my ego is. I remember situations before, right? Before I had this connection to my ego, this communication, where my ego was the one that was in control, right? And what my ego did was it would seek this like connection and this depth from people outside of me, from people that were around me, whether in person or on online spaces, and we would seek this like this connection to feel depth with others that kind of always just like fell flat. And once I actually started having these conversations with my ego, and we actually started, internalizing and realizing that we didn't need anybody else. I can supplement myself, my own needs as far as like this need to connect. I can connect enough with myself. I don't need to connect with anybody else outside of me. And I don't have those urges anymore to connect out of desperation with other people. Like, yes, I still want to connect with others, but it's less of like I said, it's less of a desperation and it's more of a oh, look at this experience that we are having together, and it's not so much like look at this, like look at this situation. Doesn't this look fucking amazing, or doesn't this look fucking tragic, or don't you think this is fucked up, or like whatever, all the different ways that I used to try to connect with others outside of me. And now I am able to internalize and look at myself and talk to myself and we have conversations and we have an understanding, and we are together in this, and we don't need anybody else. And yeah, that's my personal share. I know that my ego loves me, and I love it, and we are there for each other when no one else is, and definitely gives you this sense of independence. If you have struggled with codependence issues, this is definitely a big step, which is something that I came from, and it has changed, my relationship, my romantic relationship, but it's also changed my other relationships that I have with people, with family members, and I feel much more at peace with not caring, if they understand me, which I know somebody else mentioned earlier that they struggle with. I have also struggled with this, like this. What if they don't understand? Like, what if they don't understand what I'm coming from? What if they misunderstand me? And like, now that I'm at peace with myself, now that we are a team, I don't care. I don't care if I'm not understood. I don't care if somebody thinks negatively of me, if somebody thinks I'm crazy, if somebody thinks that I'm not a good parent. So many things that I used to think about a lot before, they're not there anymore. Like, I can supplement, I can it's just, it's like a self-sustainable relationship now with myself. And yeah, that's all I have to share for this slide. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. Do you want to go ahead and read this one, Nemo?
That's a Pilar. So sepan, which means together, we break it down in from to and then sepan. To meaning like you, us, and then sepan is like bringing together. So it's us together, right? Kemantika nimitskaki tinechnotza. Sometimes I hear you speak to me. Juan nimitmanowiya pan noyolo, and I defend you in my heart. Tosepan matinemika, together we will walk. Tosepan matipakikan, together we will be happy. Matimokakikan Juan matimopalewikan, listen to yourself and help yourself. Tosepan matinemikan wehka tiach siske, walking together we get far. Ikon tipatlaniske ken Yaoehecatl, that way we will fly like the wind. Ken sinakatl, like the bat. So this is essentially a prayer.
Yeah, you can call it a prayer. It's the
equivalent, because in Spanish you use the term plegaria, which is prayer in English. And so this is essentially a prayer that you want to speak when you're sitting in that silence, right? This is essentially you asking permission to learn from yourself, and you're telling your other you that you want to walk hand in hand in this journey of learning, and make progression together, because that's the only way you will get anywhere, right? Working together instead of individually. Individually, you can get farther than a group, but obviously the group is going to build a lot more than what you can by yourself. And so, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, it is a prayer that you say to the other you, right? So that you can learn how to harmonize and work together, right? But it also does apply to working with a group, right? Working with people, because this journey is not meant for us to take it on alone, right? We can go way further if we all work together, right? But we have to we have to learn how to do that, right? We have to learn how to separate sometimes our differences so that we can go hand in hand and achieve the bigger goals, right? The bigger purposes that we're trying to attain. And so in Nahuatl, there is a saying that I don't think I wrote it down, but it's like together, like the reeds, right? I think it's lo sepan ken akat, right? It's and so that's something that we really do like repeat a lot in our classes and in our teachings is let's go hand in hand, let's work together, right? Let's learn how to set aside our differences and just learn how to collaborate with others because I think that's always been the teachings behind these philosophies, these teachings is we don't know everything, and the amount of knowledge and information and experience that somebody else can bring to the table can really guide you, can help you, and get you far. So
Nick Nitin, Pilar, or Atlani, would you like to add some insight knowledge as you always do?
Go ahead, no, Nitzin.
Yeah. So this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, right? Where I have this relationship with myself now, and it's a lot easier to move through life, to take things on, especially when things don't go as planned. And I'm still learning. I don't speak now what I'm trying to learn the words, and you can keep these with you and look back at them when you're having difficulty processing things, and it's really helpful. It's the fact that it's a mother tongue, that it's so meaningful in so little words. And I did want to mention though, we have noticed in the last class and this class, how our ancestors looked at nature, looked at our environment to better process and better communicate what it should be like, our experience on this earth. And when they mentioned the bat, I did want to mention, that they looked at the bat and how it's blind, and it uses echolocation to locate things and to fly and to move around, and it doesn't need anybody, right? And so that's one of the points that it's making, that we will fly like the wind, like the bat. Together, nothing can stop us, like not even being blind, not even not even being disabled in a way, because that's how we would see that in our human experience, right? We can adapt, and the bat has adapted in its nature, in its natural development, to be an animal that survives, to be an animal to look towards for inspiration. And I think that that's something that this prayer communicates, and I just wanted to bring that up. That's what come to me.
Let me just add something really quick to that, because that's actually one of the things that I wanted to bring up as part of making a point, is how our ancestors and the Nahua speaking, or any other mother language for that matter, because there's quite a few in what we now call, America. They had a completely different way of understanding the language than we do, whether it's in Spanish or English. So, for instance, you take listen to yourself and help yourself. Well, the entire thing, right? But let me just take this portion. Listen to yourself and help yourself. Walking together, we get far. That way, we will fly like the wind, like the bat. Okay. So when this is translated, it loses a lot of the meaning. For instance, the wind is considered sacred. The bat is also considered sacred, right? These are advocations to Quetzalcoatl, which is an extremely sacred energy, right, and concept in the culture. So this, although it reads quite simple, is extremely profound when it comes to it being a prayer, because it's basically asking your higher self that you want to walk together, right? Be happy together, uh, and basically work together in a way that you can achieve amazing things, like flying like the wind, like something sacred, right? Or like the bat, something extremely sacred. So the sacredness behind how people that didn't have access to, a cell phone or to the TV or to even a newspaper was completely different than ours, because they looked at nature, and a lot of the things from nature were things that they consider the real things that influence the world or the life around them. So that's the point that I wanted to make about that. Platform.
Would you like to read the slide, Techbot, or I can read it? Up to you.
Yeah, I can give it a shot. Let me let me practice my nawat. Wewe ye Yekatsin. Ye Quetzalcoatl, right? It's our honorable Father Wind, right? Tlazokamati nowe gitatsin Yeyekatsin. I am grateful to you, my honorable Father Wind. Tlenochi tinechmaka, wan tlen amo tinechmaka. All that you give me and don't give me. Shinechmaka tlamaltilistli. Give me wisdom. Chikawalitli wan yolchipawalitli. Fortitude and a clean and pure spirit. Xitlawilwi noyoltonal wan nonawal. Illuminate my spirit and my nawal. Nimotemaka wan nimoyoltlalia. I commit and I have faith. Nimomachtis anmotech noteo kolwan. Learn from you my primordial energies I will. Nakan wan ashkan nimoyekmachtis. In the here and now I will teach myself. So this is another prayer, plegaria, right, to speak to our honorable wind, right, our honorable sacred energy of the wind. And I think one of the biggest and important things is to always be showing thanks and gratitude, right, to the sacred energies, especially when it comes to the things that it gives us and the things that it doesn't, right? When we are doing some of these exercises, we start to realize that you thank it for what you know and what you don't, right? What you've been given, what you've been handed, and what you haven't, because we are growing each, step along the way. And there is some information, there are some teachings that we haven't been given or presented yet because we're not there yet, right? We're not to that moment, that level of understanding. But we still must acknowledge and say, thank you. I appreciate, what you give me and what you don't, right? And it's just highlighting that we have the knowledge and information within us. It's just that we have to illuminate, we have to empower that side of us. We have to, be motivated to see that side of ourselves, to continuously learn from these energies, from these teachings that surround us in our environment. There's so much information around. We just might not know how to understand it, right? Or how to decipher it at this point in time. But it's important, to live with that, open mind, that thirst for knowledge, that hunger for knowledge, right? Because down our path, we are going to be presented with plenty of information, and it's up to us whether or not we apply ourselves and, take it in, right? Because, our Noknitsin, right, our honorable siblings have all said that this is all great and dandy. You can sit here and you can listen to the information, but it's another thing to actually practice it, right? To incorporate it, to make those changes within yourself and your lifestyle, to really gather all the teachings that are within these exercises, and you're gonna see a change. It just takes time, it takes patience, and it takes that desire, right, to unravel these teachings, because it's not presented to us in such a simple way a lot of the times. Sometimes the messages or information come in ways that make us scratch our head or feel so, overwhelmed or confused, right? But it's up to us to kind of seek it through to the end and realize that we're going to be better off, right, for sticking it through and getting through it. But I love all these plegarias. I love all these prayers. As everybody has said, there is that work of translating, right? But it's a profound message. It's something that, I mean, we can repeat on our daily, like, especially when we're outside. I'm a big lover of being outside with the wind. Ever since I've been young, I've always had that connection with, I like talking out loud, and when I speak, the wind actually will change, right? It will go from a smooth, calm breeze. But then when you refer to it by, its sacred name, or if you just start talking to it, right, it changes. It gets more powerful. It gets more enthusiastic. You can feel the change in vibration surrounding you. It is something really awesome to see and to experience. Especially when storms come along. I like being out there. I can feel the electricity, the vibrations. I can feel the storm coming this way, and you do feel the presence. And although this is one of those energies that like many others, you don't see, right? But it's still there. You can feel it, you can sense it. It just needs some attention, right, to be given to it. And so that's my share for that segment. Tlazohca Mati. And I would like to hear, everybody else's perspective on it.
Well, before we get into that, one thing that we need to talk about is the Nahual. The Nahual, there's like a mythology behind it. There's like a legend that it's a set of people who have the capability to, like a werewolf, change their form from human to that of an animal or a creature of some sort, right? Which, like, well, let's first dive into it. A Nahual is a very knowledgeable person, someone who has had the opportunity to sit in silence and observe, and not just observe, but also learn the tendencies of some of the animals, learn the communication methods, learn the calls, learn the behaviors, and essentially they can become the animal in essence, right? Not in the sense that they are a werewolf, but they have the ability to speak to birds, speak to wind, speak to the weather, speak to rain, and they get a reply back. And so Nawal also translates to your inner spirit, in which you also must, in essence, feed it, but you don't feed it with nourishment that you ingest and intake. No, the way you feed your nawal is by sitting in silence. And Tekpat has already stated that the greatest teacher in the existence of this plane of physicality that we sit in is silence. In moments in which you feel the most uncomfortable, that you actually want to say something, remain silent, because you are going to learn a whole lot more than you would if you didn't. Now, I'm not talking about situations where, you know, John Doe is walking around touching females inappropriately. No, those are moments when you definitely need to defend yourself. I'm talking in moments when people are just talking egotistically, or they're saying words to cause you to become perturbed, would be the best word to use. Your emotions to become perturbed, and then you lose that balance between yourself. And because let's face it, there are people out there who know how to push our buttons, who know the words, exact words to say to get us to react to a certain way. And in allowing them to change our behavior in the way that we are feeling for that moment, you give them that victory, that win that they're looking and searching for. And like I stated last class, war with the ego is not the same as war in the Eurocentric sense, where you're trying to completely annihilate the individual. No, war for us essentially means that when you befriend your enemy, the war has been won. So, in order for you to win these quote unquote battles, you must learn how to win the person and not the and not their ego, right? If there is a disconnect between them and their ego, you can tell right away. Why? Because they're gonna see something in you they don't like, and they're gonna, poke at it, and they're gonna try and project the fact that they are uncomfortable with their own selves and push that onto you to make you feel uncomfortable. So some things for us to kind of take heed into consideration when we're talking about Nawal. It's not just the a person with abilities to where anatomically transform into a werewolf, or a were snake, or a were turtle, were lizard, were crocodile. It's not the physical change, although they do exist. We're talking about the knowledgeable individual, the one that holds that great knowledge, and we can't get there if we don't learn to practice silence and remaining silent.
And then just real quick, I guess this goes hand in hand with what you just brought up about the Nawal, right? In this Ehekatl lesson or teachings, it goes into the topic of we must recognize we are vulnerable. We must be conscious of this fact so that we handle situations in a better manner. Kind of to tie in with what Nemo was saying, right? There are certain individuals that are the biggest teachers of all, right? They come into to our lives. It might feel like complete torture. It might feel like I can't do this, I can't handle this because I don't want to be the bigger person in this situation. Like I am perturbed, I want to act, I just want to react, right? But as we work these exercises, as we go through these teachings, right, we are going to become more conscious, because the goal is not for us to sink to their level. It's not for us to get upset or look for a fight or just entice that feeling of I just want to explode with emotions. I just want to cause pain and destruction because I want them to feel the way I feel, right? That isn't going to bring anything good our way, right? that is not understanding the lesson. That is not understanding what we're being asked of, right? What we're being asked of is to learn, right? To grow, to change the narrative, to change how we react, because we are we're not supposed to give it the attention, right? We're not supposed to give those vibrations, that type of energy attention. We will get to the point, it might sound weird right now, but the more we practice this, eventually the stuff that really bothers us, that gets under our skin, it won't bother us anymore. We'll get to a point where we're just like, no, that's funny. You're trying to upset me, but I don't feel that anymore, right? Like it doesn't bother me anymore. I've moved on, right? But we have to give it the patience. We have to apply these things into our daily so that we can move forward, right? Because we're not supposed to act like majority of people in society where they get upset and they just get volatile or, you know, aggressive or just react, right? And then they make a fool out of themselves. And then what happens? The ego brings in guilt so that you can feel guilty of what you spoke of or what you said or did. That is not supposed to be happening, right? We have to grow and transform our internal spirit so that we make progress, right? So we move away from just letting the heart run wild. We have to keep it in check, right? We are allowed to have feelings, but you're not supposed to stay in those feelings. You're supposed to learn from them, you know, process, and then you move on and you figure out what to do the next time, right? How to do it better. So just something to add to the internal spirit, the Nawal, the growth that you're supposed to progress to.
And Brother Atlani, Sister Pilar, do either one of you want to discuss the myth or, the myth
I like
of the
the myth.
bat, the myth of the bat and Xochiquetzali?
No, it's in Pilar. Let me make a point really quick about the Nahual, if you don't mind. The
Yeah,
Nahual is way more than that. It's not a myth. It's actually a real thing. The Nahual is our higher self. It's that person that talks to us. We might not see it that way because it's been, the work has been villainized in a lot of different ways to make people think that it is basically a person that is going to go and kill you and things of that nature. What it is a person of a lot of knowledge that has reached a lot of knowledge to the point that they can control their own energy in a lot of multiple different ways. At least that's how I understand it. There's plenty of examples of this still happening with a lot of different people of knowledge in Mexico and even in the US. It is basically linked to a lot of other myths. Most of them are going to be scary and things of that nature, but all of us have a Nahual. Is basically what we're talking about is the same thing. Is our other self, is our ego. That's our Nahual. So that's just the point that I wanted to make about that. But we are gonna go deeply into that particular word because it basically exemplifies what I think a lot of people want to reach, which is a level of knowledge of that similar to a Buddhist monk or somebody of that caliber. Is essentially similar to that degree of knowledge when it comes to energy and multiple different facets of life. I think that's what I wanted to add to that particular word. Is basically there in Nawat. It's not a myth. It's a real thing. It's just being villainized a lot. But there's plenty of examples of people reaching these levels of consciousness. It's a level of consciousness, basically. Tlazo Kamati Mek.
Tlazo Kamati. I wanted to have my own second to talk about this slide, if that's okay. When I think about this plegaria and what it says, you know, the second phrase, Trenochi tinechmaka wan tren amo tinechmaka, all that you give me and don't give me. I do. This is a phrase that I have used, you know, and that you can use in your interactions with many of the teachers that life gives us, right? And it's it's a way to realize, you know, your position, um the situation that you're in, you know. If we're talking about the wind, you know, we're thankful for the wind for existing. We're thankful for how strong it is because it brings us clouds, it brings us rain, it strengthens the trees, it strengthens their plants, you know. And it could be worse, right? Like I live in hurricane area and I have been through a couple of hurricanes and I have seen the kind of destruction that the wind can do. And so this is just an example, you know, of why we are grateful for all that it gives us and all that it doesn't give us. Because it could give us more, but it doesn't. And you know, used it I have used that phrase when speaking to spirits, when speaking to nature, you know, that you have to recognize, you know, that you have to be grateful and you have to word it out loud to them. You know, you have to communicate it to them. You'll get to a point where you don't have to speak out loud, but it's so powerful to speak out loud to them, you know, for now, until you can communicate telepathically with them. Um, Yeah, and when it says, I will learn from you my primordial energies, it is referring to that. It is referring to the energies and the spirits and everything that is in our environment, the from the water to the rocks to the mountains to, you know, the lizards to the plants, everything that is around us that has sacred energy, that is a part of us that has been disconnected from us because of colonization. And so we are reconnecting this way. We are decolonizing this way by reconnecting to all of this that they have severed from us, from our connection to. And yeah, in the here and now, I will teach myself. I will teach me myself. I will teach myself. Nobody's going to give me a grade. Nobody's going to tell me you didn't do the homework, you didn't do the exercises, you know, you got to do them. No, this is not what this is about. This is about you exercising it because you want to, because you want to have this connection, because you want to be this person, because you want to reach to your Nawal, you know, you want to be connected to yourself in a way that has been forcibly removed from many of us. And you know, I am decided to do this. And I know a lot of you here are as well. I will go ahead and go to the next slide if that is all right with anybody. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Brother Atlani, you want to go ahead and talk about this slide with us?
Yeah, if you don't, if you guys don't mind, let me touch on this because I think this is one of those things that I read a lot of books, a lot of ancient books. I love history and I love ancient religions because I think that you can learn a lot from them. Um, so, what is it that our society, whether it's via the church, via the school, home, teaches us, right? Um, a lot of teachers extremely regarded in high regards, right? People of a lot of caliber in history have talked about how the human mind is manipulated and how this begins around the age of 6 or 7, right? Somewhere around that age. Prior to this age, uh, most of our minds are basically molded by family, right? Do this, don't do that, things of that nature. Then we are off to school, right? And if we go to a public school, we basically follow this particular program of education where we are taught to behave in a particular way. If we go to church, same thing, right? Depending on the particular church or religious organization that you join, you're gonna end up with a particular set of practices and behaviors. They drive a particular uh, concept of what should be good and what should be bad. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because this plays into a lot of the things that we consider to be truth. They may not be truth, right? Uh, Things that were taught to us by our, parents may not be accurate. A lot of the information that they know is based on information that they learned in their life without the access the we as their kids may have, right? Or they simply didn't care to question a lot of the things that we might care to question. So it's not that they wanted to teach us to behave in a particular way, is that it was kind of what the expectation was for their time and their society and their culture. But it happens everywhere, and we're bombarded by it. We're basically uh, taught or told how to behave from the moment that we wake up to the moment that we go to sleep, right? A church is going to want us to behave in a particular way. Otherwise, we're going to start having issues with the church and the congregation. Uh, a school, same thing. If you don't follow the rules, eventually you're going to get in trouble. Eventually you're going to get expelled. A home, same thing. If you don't follow the rules of the home, you will end up, getting in trouble in a lot of multiple different ways. But what that truly does is basically teaching us and molding us to behave in a particular way, uh, where we do not understand life and start questioning reality later on in life from a lot of different angles, right? A lot of you have mentioned how, as kids or earlier in life, you guys would do exercises that we're talking about now, uh, as regular things, or you consider regular at the time in your life, right? The reason behind that is you used to be young. You used to be able to do things without society telling you that was weird or that was stupid or things of that nature. So that's how society steals a lot of our purpose, which at the end of the day, most of us end up thinking the life's purpose is to accumulate material things. And the higher up you are in doing that, the more successful you are. But in all reality, that's just, a smoke screen that kind of plays into how the manipulation works at the end of the day. So the questions would be, why are we here? Why am I here? Right? What is my purpose? And what can I do for myself? Right? So I think that one has to become a little bit more have a little bit more selfishness when it comes to these questions, and trying to figure out what it is our life purpose, the reason why we're here, and what it is that we can actually do for ourselves all the time. And I think that the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to educate ourselves as much as we can, with as much knowledge as we can, in figuring out what is the purpose. I think that's a really hard thing to find out in your life. I think that you are extremely lucky if you figure that out. I personally think that my life purpose is to help others in life. I don't think I'm doing a good job at it, but I'm going to continue to try as much as I can. And why am I here? What is the reason for life? Right? These are questions that were asked by a lot of different people in history that are extremely profound. And it's not just a question, but it's really going into it, you know, and trying to think deeper into the actual question. What is my life purpose, right? So things that I think that are meant to uh, be taken into account. I think that we need to make a list of all of these things that we consider that were taught to us in, maybe not in, they were taught to us by mistake or by error, by, you know, whether it was a religious institution, a school system, or even home. And I think that we need to basically just dispose of these the best way that we can. Maybe burning it and offering those ashes to Ehekatl would be a good exercise, right? Because we need to start letting go of a lot of those things as well. A lot of those ideas that get in the way of learning new knowledge as well. Tlazokamati Mek.
Tlazokamati, brother Atlani. I also have a share, but I would like to allow Nemo and Tekba to share if they're ready.
I just wanted to make note that these exercises are best practiced at 5 a.m. as
That was the reflection in the mirror.
yeah, and this one as well. It's best practice at 5 a.m. to allow us the time to actually reflect, because that's when it's most silent. That's when you can just hear the bird calls, the wind, right? And so
Your neighbor snoring.
yes, as Temachtilli put it, your neighbor snoring, you can hear their snores, and so these are the best times to practice those. And then on the reflection, when you look at yourself in the reflection for 5 minutes, after those 5 minutes, give yourself a hug and talk to yourself, right? And tell yourself that, as Temachtiani puts it, you are the chingotic, which means that you are that badass, but they kind of novelized it. So we have to find out a English word of the equivalent to novelize it. And so just challenge the narratives of where you grew up, because some of these information you'll end up finding out that it was learned through the trauma experience, or most of our ancestors had to undertake this information because they were under pain of death. And so those are other avenues to approach, because it's pretty crucial to understand where the teachings originated from and how they got embedded into our existence and our family lines.
So the reason that there's this exercise, right? The figuring out where you learn things from, it's an important step, because once you find the root, right? Once you kind of go back and you're doing a self-analysis, right? And you're figuring out, like, where did I learn these things? Where did I pick up these habits or traits? A lot of it, right? You can change, right? But you can only change it if you know where it stems from. And so just to add a little bit more, right, about, like, in my perspective on the slide, there's so much influence, and a lot of the time it's negative influence, right? The church, for instance, the church, many of us have experience attending church, participating, being raised in some type of religious environment due to trying to uphold family traditions, not knowing that those are not our family traditions. They were just, processes of assimilation, indoctrination, right? So when you attend church, for many of us, we know that you're limited, right? You're given this box and you're told to, you know, fit in that box. Otherwise, you're gonna come across problems. You're gonna have issues. Don't make yourself so obvious. Don't bring attention to yourself because, you know, that's bad. A lot of things that just make us further disconnected from our strengths, what we are meant to develop into, right? It does hinder the character development of each one of us by upholding these religious practices because they're so strict and they're so limited in what they want to teach you and how they want to teach you that was never really our scope of learning, right? We were not told, you know, just follow path A because I tell you to, you know, follow it and don't question it. A lot of, yeah, or, you know, you're just going to go to the bad place. And so there's really no choice, right? So there's a lot of limitations. And then we start internalizing these limitations and believing it. And once you internalize, that's where the damage happens because then you start making excuses for yourself. You start saying, well, it's just the way it is, or that's how I was taught, and so it must be this way, right? And so you start to limit your scope. And that's why we have like tunnel vision, right? We can't perceive certain things because we've made ourselves for so long only see down one lens, or, you know. And so the same thing happens with school. Nowadays we know school isn't there to really build on our growth and development. It's there to make us good followers, good workers, right? Just to pay attention to our performance, right? Or of tasks. It's not really how are you developing, how are you going, you know, how are you navigating this course of life? It's more of, can you perform this task in a cost efficient, very, you know, little effort, and, you know, just understand the basics, right? Just so that it's good enough to benefit our selfish needs, right? And also with school, we develop these social norms of trying to imitate, trying to be people that we're not, right? Because we want to be liked. We don't want to be bullied. We don't want to be made fun of. We don't want to be told, you know, anything except positive things. And so we all have experienced it, right? Kids know from a very young age that the social standards, the social expectations, they're very influential, right? And it's very hard for a kid to navigate this world without the pressures of like, I want to fit in, I don't want to be made fun of, I don't want to think differently, I don't want to be myself because being myself brings bad attention to me, you know. So there's a lot of unlearning, right? There's a lot of things that we have to help guide one another, and especially our younger generations that are very influential, that like to imitate what they see. Believe it or not, they pick up more from example than we possibly give them credit for. And so later down the road, they develop these habits and traits that were never theirs, but they just copied it, right? They saw what they saw and they took it, you know? So also with the home and family, right? We bring so much importance to our family. We have that necessity to want to be close to them, to be like them, to follow in their footsteps. But then you also have the family that tells you, do better, right? Don't be like me. Don't end up like how I am, right? There's not that pride. There's not that that pride in what they do or how they, you know, grew up. And also they teach you a lot of bad habits. I mean, especially if they're upholding like gender roles, right? Of woman does this jobs and these tasks around the house, man does this. They don't intermix, they don't, you know, they don't work hand in hand, but they're like two different opposite ends, and you don't cross the line, right? If you grow up in those type of environments, well, then obviously you develop into a person that will later repeat those same patterns and pass it on to the generations. And that's why we have the problems we have of there's a lack of respect for one another. There's a lack of collaboration and working together, because we're just told focus on you, and don't worry about what that other person's doing. They have nothing to do with you. But we're all interconnected. We all serve a purpose being here, and we weren't just put in the same space for for by accident, by randomness, right? So we have to be mindful not to pass on those toxic traits, and not to just do things because we want to make people happy. The whole notion of people pleasing was not in our scope of development. It was just something that through trauma, through survival, we kind of incorporated, and then we started passing that on and saying that, be like this, right? So that others can be proud of you. But the most important person that you should be proud of is you, right? The work that you're doing and what you're contributing to help other people do the same. So yeah, these questions are important to ask yourself, to reflect on, like, who are you? Why were you born, right? It's not just, you weren't born randomly, right? We all have a reason to be here. We all have strengths that we bring to the table, right? And it's just understanding and diving into what those are. Our Temachtilli in the lesson says we weren't just made just for the fun of it, right? It wasn't just because, our family and our parents decided to do what they did, and, poof, you came into existence and you have like no purpose. Like, there is a reason you're here. Your energy, you're sacred. But you have to start believing it. You have to start practicing it so that you can get better connected and reconnect those severed branches or networks, right? That no longer kind of were functioning because of the way we grew up. So there is a lot to unlearn. It's a process that you have to be patient with yourself, with other people, because we're all trying to unlearn all the toxic or negative habits or traits and kind of figure out who we really are and go with that, right? And encourage that part of us. So yeah, I mean, this section was really, it hit home. It's something that I'd work on the daily, and I hope it can help each one of you do the same, and just stop being so hard on yourself. You are who you are, but you're also malleable, right? Your spirit is malleable. You can change it. You can transform it into something beautiful. It's just burn and sever those things, right? Cut out those things in your life that bring you down and don't do any good. And know that the work doesn't end, right? You can always change something. So first understand where it stems from, and then, change your story or change the trait. So
Magnitin Pilar, I know you wanted to add in and chime in.
Yeah, so there's this concept that I was introduced to not long ago called the I believe it's called the uh, seven generation, and I don't know, I'll think about it right now. But it's like recognizing how our actions impact not only us, but the people that followed 7 generations after us, and how it also affects the 7 generations before us, as far as like the ancestors that we carry with us. And so when I think about why I'm here, what is my purpose, what can I do for myself? I was reading this book that is called Legacy. There's this quote from this Nehiyawa elder. His name is Michael Thrasher, and he believes, that we are born with 4 gifts: vision, feeling, movement, and time. So to stop the cycle of intergenerational trauma, Indigenous people must choose to see, choose to feel, and choose to move. And so I see that as far as like being my purpose in my life, like I want to stop the trauma from being passed on to my next generation. I want to do the work so that it's easier for the people that come 7 generations after me to exist. Because I know, from personal experience that when nobody cares, you don't learn to care. And, I have had my struggles, I've struggled with drug addiction and with self-harm and so many negative things that weren't necessarily traumas that I experienced, that I was reacting to. They were inherited, and that was just how I was trying to process them alone. And so what I can do for myself is to actually feel it, to actually feel the pain, and feel and learn who I am, and learn who I can be. And I'm not only doing it for myself, I'm doing it for the people that follow after me. I'm doing it for my kid, and I'm doing it for his kids and whoever comes after. And it's not just about biology, it's every other child that I interact with. That's who I'm doing it for the next 7 generations. And that, brings us to where we're at right now, with this class, with the classes that I take with the Machiani. It's about educating myself and trying to find that connection that was born from my ancestors and from people that didn't know any better, and they didn't know that they could choose differently, and they were stuck in that fear cycle, and they traumatized each other. It's it's definitely work. It's definitely something that's going to take a lot of work, but it's not impossible, and it's definitely not impossible with teachings like the ones that we're having here, and the ones that are being taught to us by the Mashtiani and so many other teachers that are available that want to spread, this knowledge as far as like reconnecting and healing this pain that so many of us have inherited, um, and we're not aware of, or at least, I was not aware of. Yeah, that's my share for the slide. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one. So exercises with the Ehekatl. Find a space that calls for you, a sacred place to go to visit. Observe your environment. Witness the presence of the earth, the wind, the sun, all that surrounds us, all that we take for granted. Be grateful to them. Be thankful. Learn from the environment, from the plants, the animals, from the rocks. And then another exercise with the Ehekatl is stare at yourself in a mirror for 5 minutes. You silence your mind of judgment. Thank yourself, your avatar, for every bit of it, that it allows you this experience, this space to exist. Thank the wind for the breaths you take and haven't even thought of being grateful for. Hug yourself. And like Brother Nemo said, it's easier to do it in the morning and everybody else is asleep. But honestly, any time of day works, just fight the urge to do something else. It's not that hard. I did it today. I stared into my obsidian mirror and I spoke to myself, and there was a freaking mosquito in the bathroom with me, and it was trying to bite me, and I was just like, no, just let it. Nothing. It's nothing, a mosquito bite is nothing. Just take it in. And so, I did the exercise, and it was nice. It was not the first time I've done it, but it was nice to see myself in that light. It was nice to have that experience. I know we have talked about it before. You see things in the mirror. You see yourself as the opposite gender. You see yourself old. I saw my father in my eyes. You see your family members, you see your ancestors if you allow yourself to, you know? And the last exercise that I have recorded here is to thank the wind, the air for all the good and the bad, for being with you since birth till death. Because it's definitely something we don't really think about. At least we're not taught to think about. Or something that we're taught to take for granted. Yeah, that's the exercise that I have here.
I just wanted to add one more exercise. The one where when you're taking the moment to reflect, uh, make sure that when you inhale or exhale, you're gonna visualize, right? So on the on the inhale, you're gonna visualize the air being the color blue or the color green as it's going in. And then when you exhale, you want to visualize that air being dark or with the bad odor. And the reason for that is because we need to understand that that is what contaminates our internal being. And if you don't believe it, science has already proved this. Carbon has been known to be a detrimental gas for you to inhale, correct? And so that's one of the reasons why you want to imagine this being dark because it's carbon. And so, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, there's another exercise with the Ehekatl, that is really important, right? Is assigning a name to the other you, right? Your internal warrior. And the reason we do that with the Ehekatl in this lesson is because when you give your other you a name, it's easier for you to bring acknowledgement to it when it's, you know, acting up, or when you're staring in the mirror and you're talking to yourself, you can actually speak using its name, right? And so it's something very important to do. So start thinking of what you want to call that other you that you see in, in that mirror. And then also with the open space, right? Finding your sacred space to take in the environment, to just be free, right? To observe the sun, feel the water, the wind. It's also a space for you to just let go and be yourself. It's highly encouraged for you to like run, dance, laugh, do everything that in other circumstances or situations you might be too embarrassed or, too aware of yourself, that you're just like, no, I don't want to because people might make fun of me, right? That's the space where you need to like let go, right? You need to embrace who you are, right? Embrace that laughter of yours, that big smile, the silly dancing. I think we all tell ourselves like we're gonna look silly, we're gonna look dumb, right? But we have to move away from that, right? Those are the spaces where you embrace yourself 100%. And so I think that was the only thing I wanted to add to those exercises. So, Palaso Kamati.
Nitinatlani.
Plaza Kumatinic. So no needs in TechPad ran on a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, which was naming our higher self, our Nahual. That is really important when doing the exercise. And I did this while falling asleep myself. When the Temachtilistli told us or told me the first time that we needed to do this exercise, I have been working on trying to connect with my higher self for, almost 10 years. So I was really excited to try this exercise. And the exercise is quite simple. You just find any place where you're comfortable and you start talking to yourself, right? And you start asking yourself, what is your name? And eventually you will come up with a name. That's how it happened to me. Everybody learns differently. Everybody has a different way of learning, and different things will trigger somebody differently than another person with the same exercise even. So don't expect that all of these exercises are gonna work for you the first time. One of the exercises should be done as an exercise is to basically run. Just take a run, go for a little run, and while you're running, laugh, okay? Laugh, actually laugh. Do it without judging yourself. Don't, I mean, if you have to drive 15 minutes away from where you live because you're embarrassed that your neighbor might see you, or if you need to, you know, go up to a mountain or a particular place to do it, do it. Doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, do the exercise because it's gonna free you. It's gonna free your spirit a lot. Doing this. It's essentially gonna allow for you to go back and connect with your inner child, right? They used to be able to do that, run and laugh, without caring about being judged. Judgment really doesn't do anything for any of us. So we're gonna start attacking it also, and realizing the you know, when people are judging an idea, they're not judging you, and you cannot really take anything personal. Uh, Nothing should be personal. We got to be like the wind. We got to move and we got to flow and we got to uh, uh, be able to be in different situations and adapt. So that's what I wanted to say. Tlasokamatimek.
Lasakamati. I'm not sure if there's any more slides, Noknitsimpilan. If there isn't, if it's okay to just kind of open up the space for questions and for those that want to get a little bit more clarification on anything that we've covered and, you know, just want to touch base on. So
Yeah, there's one more slide, but similar to last week, you know, we don't, I mean, it's just a translated um text about who the regent is. So it'll just be available for everybody to read off chat through the WhatsApp group. That's it as far as the class goes. Tasokamati, if anybody has any questions, now is the time. Thank you.
Okay, so if we don't have any questions, this is the end of the second part. Next week we will be meeting around the same time. Atlani, go ahead.
Yeah, before we leave, if you guys don't mind, let me share the exercise the way that I do it. And this works for the breathing exercise, that is, okay? I try to do this at least 4 times a week, and it does wonders. I used to do it using the colors, but I learned from an elder a technique which is amazing. So basically, what you do is you do your breathing exercise like this. You inhale when you make your head go like this, okay? And you exhale on the way back to your center, right? So it's like this. And essentially what you're doing as you're doing that is you're going back to your thoughts, okay? And you're gonna do this with as many thoughts as you have that are, especially the really bad ones, okay? So when you're breathing in, okay, you're breathing in good energy. And when you're exhaling all of those thoughts or the moment that you're basically relieving as you're breathing in So essentially what you're doing is what is called a recapitulation of all of your emotional events throughout your life. And in doing so, you're basically getting a lot of the energy, reclaiming your energy back. And in doing so, you're becoming way more solid, way stronger to be able to do a lot of other exercises as well. I do the exercise also at night. It helps me with my dreams. I do it for the day. I try and recapitulate the day, right? And sometimes you don't even have to do the breathing exercise. Sometimes it can just be in your mind, recapitulating a moment. But the breathing does work a lot when you're doing it together. So that's what I wanted to share as far as the breathing exercise. Tlazohcamati.
Tlazohcamati. Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I would add is, so one of the exercises that we went over, right, was the making of list of where you pick, where you learned some of the traits and habits, right? Highly encourage you after you write them down. Our Nongnik Sinatlani mentioned it earlier, and it's something that is very profound. It's very helpful. Destroy the list, but in a helpful manner. And so what you do is you write down your list, right? You write down what you want to get rid of and move away from, because you're trying to grow and transform in your learning journey. And once you're done with that list, you can offer it, right, to our sacred energy of fire, and it will dissipate, and you can sever those parts from you in a very profound manner. So I encourage you to try it out and just see how you feel. And what you're putting out there is essentially you're letting go, right? You're saying enough is enough. I'm done with these traits, with these habits. I want to do better. I want to unlearn, and you're severing those ties, right? So just something I wanted to add, and I highly encourage you to try it. So.
Let's see each other in the realm of dreams and tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody. I have never looked forward to going to sleep as much as I have since learning all of this stuff as well. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
I wanted
night.
to
Go ahead.
wanted to ask if the maestro. So I had some issues too because, like I said, I have a lot to prepare for tomorrow. But I wanted to make time también to join in. Appreciate everybody that considered me having me here. From the heart. So muchísimas gracias. Appreciate it. Pero the only thing is I wasn't really clear is like how to apply the exercises. You know what I'm saying? So I was wondering if like on the slides, does it explain these things? I didn't get to see the breathing exercise that you were mentioning. I'm just trying to multitask and just try to be present, but at
Right.
times it could be, I have ADD too, so I call it a multi-dimensional personality because it's like, you're living in multi dimensions, your mind's like, ¿qué voy a hacer mañana? ¿Qué voy a hacer de comer? What's going to go on next week, next month? So, parts of me is like still stuck in Teotihuacan and I don't want to come back. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to come back to, disculpe la palabra, but the United Snakes. I want to stay over there in the Teocalis and meditating and soaking up all la energía de los sagrados templos de nuestros ancestros, right? But anyway, I don't mean to make it long. I just, I apologize. I couldn't respond earlier. Just, that's the part I didn't catch, you know what I'm saying? So that's just what I wanted to go over, you know what I mean? Just a real quick summary, if you would, I appreciate it if you could,
Yeah, of course. So the way that I do my breathing exercise, is I just basically find a place that is that feels good to me, right? A comfortable location where I can sit down in a comfortable way. And I basically just start doing a breathing exercise, and it's basically just inhaling and exhaling in a conscious way, being aware of my own exercise, right? I then try to feel my entire body, basically from my toes all the way to the top of my head, right? As I'm doing this breathing exercise. Eventually, I switch my exercise, right? And this is where it gets really interesting for me, because I start doing it with a practice that is a little bit better for me anyway. I start doing this. So as I'm making this movement, I'm inhaling, and as I'm making this movement, I'm exhaling, right? So everything is at the center, right? As I'm doing that, I'm either going through different issues where I'm reliving moments, and I'm basically releasing them as part of my exhaling, right? So the inhaling is basically nothing but good energy coming my way, feeding myself with the wind, with Yaoehecatl, right? With the energy, right? The exhaling is taking away all of those bad emotions from the bad memories that I may be working on. Uh, I started working on this with my loved ones first, right? With family issues, traumas, things of that nature, and then I started moving on to different things in my life. I'm not done. I don't think I'll ever be done, but it's basically an exercise that is done by a lot of elders. That is really good, and it helps us on gaining a lot of energy back, I think. So yeah, that's how I do that exercise. No needs.
Muchísimas gracias, maestro. I appreciate it. Muchísimas gracias por compartirme, maestro. Se aprecia de corazón.
Tlazo Comati, Cano Chino Yolo. Nos vemos. Si no, does anyone else have anything to add? I think we're done for the night.
Yeah, everybody have a good night. And I just put on the chat. I can go ahead and also, if it helps, kind of make things a little easier and kind of to summarize, I can go ahead and put the list of the exercises that go with these teaching with Ehekatl in the WhatsApp to kind of have a place to go back and look at it, right? So don't stress too much, siblings. We will help you guys out. Have a good
Plus,
night.
the video will be also shared, so
Yes.
we'll be able to go back to it. And if you need to try and narrow it down to a particular time in the video, it'll be easier that way also. Tlazo Kamati Miak.
Y muy tasque mi plapa.